Okay, thank you again for coming to the exterior cleaning, my cleaning seminar. Today we're going to cover cleaning the outside of your car. It's going to work for whether it's a car, a motorcycle, a boat, your RV, your motorhome, whatever you're cleaning, the same techniques apply. Now, when you start to wash your car or your vehicle, I call them people movers, you're going to want to wash either in the morning or later in the evening. And why do you want to do that? Because you don't want the heat from the sun, of course, drying the water so quickly that water spots start forming. So what are a couple things that you need to wash with? First of all, baby shampoo is what I recommend to clean. It's very mild, it's very gentle. The new paints that are going on the cars and the vehicles now are no longer made with lead. They're now either what they call a chroma-based paint or a polyurethane-based paint. They eliminated lead from paint, that was back I think in 2003, because the lead is so toxic. Now this is what really irritates me. They allow baby pacifiers and sippy cups to be shipped over from China that have lead in them, and it's okay for our babies to suck on lead, but it's not okay to put it in the car paint. Go figure. Okay, so the paints, what that means is the lead used to make the paints really hard. They were real hard. So if you started oxidizing, it might take 5-6 years before the paint would actually begin to oxidize and you'd start losing the paint. But now with the newer types of paints, they may start oxidizing, within 5 or 6 months. If you're washing them with a harsh detergent, anything like that, it doesn't take long for them to oxidize. So you have to be very careful what you're washing your vehicles with to keep these harsh detergents on. And the reason that I'm warning about these harsher detergents is because if you ever damp mopped your kitchen linoleum floors, we used to do this back in the old days with like Simple Green or Mr. Clean or something like that, and you'd walk across your floors, only your feet were sticking to them, and you heard this noise that your feet made when you tried to pick them up. Well, that's because the phosphorus and the heavy degreasing agents left a residue on the floor. And that's exactly what happens to the paint on your vehicle, is it leaves a sticky residue on that vehicle, and it doesn't come off. So it starts to soften the sealant or the clear coat, and then the paint, and you begin to oxidize. 5-6 months later, you're beginning to lose the paint, all because of the products that you're using to clean them with. Baby shampoo. Now, to combat water spots that can form, always add a little bit of some distilled white vinegar. Now, your bottle of vinegar, check the label. Make sure it says made from grain. I used to say that if the label read safe for pickles or food grade, that it was okay to use. I have since found out that food grade and safe for pickle vinegar can be made from petroleum. So make sure that your vinegar is made from grain. Now, what vinegar does is a couple of things. It boosts the cleaning ability of the cleaner that you're using, so you don't need to use as much baby shampoo, which is better. It leaves less carbon footprints. Reducing with the vinegar added to your wash water, first of all, it's going to help eliminate the water spot problems because the water spots are caused by the alkali in the water. The vinegar is a very mild acid, so it neutralizes that alkali. It brings the water back to a neutral balanced pH level, which means that the water is going to be more effective. Therefore, you need less of your cleaner, which is going to leave less carbon footprints on our earth. So it's a win-win situation there. Now, if you're going down, say you're going down a highway someplace and you pass an oil rigger, I do it all the time, and they're leaking a little bit of oil, and it leaves some oil or grease marks or something like that on the side of your vehicle. You want to use your Clean-Ease. Use it concentrated. This makes, this 1 quart actually makes 8 gallons of cleaner, so it will save you a lot of money buying ready-to-use products. This is the Clean-Ease in a ready-to-use, but you pay $8 for this and $25 for something that's going to make you 8 gallons of cleaner. But use it concentrated, pour it on a cloth, wipe it on that grease and oil. Now, my #1 rule of cleaning is give your product time to work. I know I do it all the time when I'm cleaning my truck. I will put my Clean-Ease on to remove that grease and oil, and I'll sit there and start rubbing. And I'll rub for 5 minutes. Well, in that 5 minutes time, I could have gotten the wheels cleaned, because it takes 5 minutes for the Clean-Ease to break down the grease and oil. So apply it to that area, go clean your wheels, come back to it, and it'll wipe right off, and you don't spend 10 minutes trying to clean it off of there. So now what do you wash with? Okay, you've got a selection of sponges and brushes that you can use and things like that. The paint manufacturers don't recommend using brushes with a vehicle because of the fact that what happens, well, there's only one safe type of brush to use, and it's made with boar's hair. They're very expensive, but it is safe to use. What happens with these other brushes is they have those nice soft flagged ends. You know, they're nice little fuzzy ends on the end of the bristles. Those start wearing down as you continue to wash your vehicle. They break down. So one time you may go out there and there's no scratches there. The next time you go out there and it's covered with brush marks. And that's because the bristles have broken down. Part of my job is that I am a cleaning consultant to the RV industry. So I go out and work with RV manufacturers like Tiffin and Newmar Motorhomes, and I teach them how to take care of their cars. So I've learned from the very best. I work one-on-one with the paint companies. I teach them about things like microfiber, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit, and using baby shampoo and pressure washers and what to use and what not to use with pressure washers. So we go over all of that. Now what I've taught them to do and what they're now teaching to their customers is to use lamb's wool. It is the softest material around. My lamb's wool comes on a swivel pad. Okay, so it's a 4-way swivel pad. You're going to use it this direction and then just come right down the side of your vehicle with it. Now it snaps on and off, so that just comes out, and you can attach other things to it, which I'll show you here in just a minute. So use your lamb's wool to wash with, and then especially on your motorhome, or if you have a big truck or say a utility vehicle that needs to be dried pretty quickly, I carry a product called my Easy Squeegee, and this will not scratch. It's not like a window squeegee where you have that actual rubber that can leave black marks, you know, on the side of a vehicle on the paint. But it has the natural, what they call a foam moss rubber squeegee. So it'll pull most of that moisture off the side of your vehicle for you, help prevent those water spots from forming. Then you're going to grab a towel and put that over my cleaning head, extend the handle on up. You can get clear up to the top of a 14-foot motorhome with this thing. And the towel will finish drying the rest of your coach or your RV, or, you know, like a boat or a trailer, something like that. It'll clean all those. Now on a motorhome or an RV, you have windows on the sides that are pretty close together. So turn it on the end, and that will get those areas in between the windows dried for you. You can also use a towel to clean your awnings. You can damp mop your floor on the inside of an RV or a motorhome, clean the awnings. If you get some black streaks coming down, spray it with a little bit of my Clean-Ease, go up and get the black streaks down. You don't have to get the ladders out to do all of that cleaning. So it's pretty easy and it's pretty convenient to use. So that's the basics of how to wash a vehicle, whether it's a car or a motorcycle, an RV, a boat, or whatever. You want to start using with the baby shampoo. Now, with the baby shampoo, if you are like me and I come over the Siskiyous in January and there's a lot of snow and grit and sand on the road, my truck is covered, is baby shampoo going to get that stuff off? Probably not. That's where I'll turn and I'll add a little bit of my Cleanies to that bucket of water, and that will finish pulling the rest of that stuff off of there for you. Okay, sides of vehicles. Or a motorcycle, a boat, you have some problems. Perhaps you're beginning to oxidize. Now, I always tell people with the new paints that are out to test for oxidation twice a year. That's going to keep you ahead. That's going to actually tell you a couple of things. First of all, it will tell you if you're applying your protectant often enough. Second of all, it will tell you whether or not your protectant has like petroleum distillates in it, or it has possibly silicone in it that's causing the paint to begin oxidizing. Now, to test for oxidation, grab your wax or your protectant that you're using, spray it on a cloth, and wipe back and forth. You don't want to wipe in circles because that goes cross-grain, so wipe right to left and left to right. Otherwise, you're going to leave smear marks on the side of your vehicle. Now, if you see a little bit of some paint that's coming off on your cloth, you're beginning to oxidize. Now, if you're starting to oxidize, what that's telling you is, number one, maybe you're only applying a protectant once every 2 or 3 or 4 years. Some people don't apply them at all. So if you continue to ignore that oxidation, you're going to lose the paint on the side of your vehicles. The second thing that it's going to tell you, say you are applying a protectant 3 or 4 times a year, you need to go back and read your MSDS sheet. Okay? Look on my website, www.goclean.com, click on Go Green, and in that section, it will teach you how to read an MSDS sheet. Look for the words aliphatic hydrocarbon, petroleum, and mineral oil. Those are all alternate words to the name petroleum distillate. It could be that the petroleum distillate in your product is causing the sealant to weaken, or your clear coat to weaken, and it's definitely causing your paint to weaken. So take a look at your MSDS sheet. So if you are oxidizing, something that you're doing with the side of that vehicle needs to be corrected, or you're going to lose your paint job. And it's going to cost you about $10,000 to get it repainted, at least on a motorhome anyway. So double check that. Now, the Renews-It is a product that I have that I had specially formulated for me. It will remove swirl marks, scratches, water spot problems, and even fog on headlights. So it's really great for that. So if you have any of those issues going on, the oxidation, I've seen this go in with a buffer, and if you're applying Renews-It with a buffer, say you've got some pretty serious oxidation going on, it's time to use a buffer. Otherwise, you can just apply that by hand. But the buffer that I like is one made by Cyclo, and that's spelled C-Y-C-L-O. And the reason I like it is because it has 2 dual heads on it. And those circle, but they circle in opposite directions. So say one of the buffers picks up a little bit of dirt on it and it scratches, the other buffer comes right over and buffs it right out. So it's really good. And if you're using a buffer, make sure that you're using the sheepskin heads on it and not foam. Dampen the sheepskin heads with a little bit of water, put on a drop or 2 of the Renews-It, and go in and buff it off of there. Your coach or your car, your motorcycle is going to look brand new when you get done removing that oxidation. It's amazing the difference that it makes in a product. Okay, now after you've used the Renews-It, you want to wait for 24 hours. and let that harden, because in order to cover up the swirl marks and scratches, the Renuzit has to, well, basically the best way I can say that is that it dissolves the paint and it brings the paint back together to cover up the scratches and the swirl marks. So that needs to harden. So 24 hours later, then get into the Advantage and use a coat of Advantage to protect it, to prevent from further oxidation. I'll talk more about waxes and sealants in a little bit and teach you about those and what to look for in that. Now, when you're washing the side of your vehicle, there can be some real issues there. On any vehicle that you're driving, whether it's a car or an RV or a motorcycle, whatever that you're driving, you have wheels. Now, there's a difference in the wheels that you have. There are some wheels that are what they call sealed rims, and those rims literally have a coating on them. You do not want to use a product like my metal polish on a sealed wheel, because it's going to polish the sealant off of it. Now, eventually, will the sealant come off of those? Yeah, because you're driving down the road, the rock chips are hitting the sides. Eventually, they're going to wear down, but there are companies out there that can reapply that sealant for you. Now, the other type of wheels that you have are either aluminum or mag. Now, Alumabrite, again, I had specially designed for me, and actually the manufacturer took this in 2012. They had this down at the Las Vegas car show, the big one in the fall. Out of 400 new products that were on display at that car show, this one took number one. So it's a really dynamite it's a really dynamite wheel polish. But this will remove your brake dust that gets on, the oxidation, because your aluminum wheels will begin to oxidize. So it'll remove all of that graying matter, it'll polish it, leave them restored and looking really, really sharp and new again. Now, on the inside, when we were talking about the inside cleaning, I was talking about using some foam paint brushes for cleaning around, like your stove knobs and different places like that. Now, the sponge paint brushes that you find at the hardware store, those are really handy to take those, dip them in your cleaning solution, and then work around. Those brushes are thin enough that they get up underneath the rim. You know how there's a lip that comes over the wheel and it's hard to get your fingers up underneath there? Those sponge paint brushes will work right up underneath there and right around there and clean those rims real easily. Now, another little trick with your wheels is get into like a janitorial supply company or a grocery store and purchase a cotton toilet bowl brush. Just has cotton fibers on it. Those are very handy for getting in the brake holes, because your hand, again, it's hard to work your hand around those holes, and a cotton toilet bowl brush just works right in between those and cleans them without any. Let's get back to talking about, when I was talking about the wheels, I forgot to talk about tire care. So let me back up a little bit and talk about the tire care. We talked about applying the metal polish onto the wheels, and we talked about, I talked about not treating a sealed wheel, with an aluminum polish, because it would take it off. But the actual tire care, people are constantly asking me, well, Mary, why do you not carry a tire treatment? I don't carry a tire treatment because the tire manufacturers recommend not using it. And the reason for that is because a majority of your tire care products, your tire treatments, contain petroleum distillates. Well, your petroleum distillates 24/7 eat away rubber. Okay? So you keep applying it because, oh, hey, it's making it really shiny. Yeah, it's making it shiny and it's eating up the rubber, and you're going to end up blowing your tires out eventually. Now, whether that happens or not, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I don't want to be out in the middle of Montana or Wyoming or down here, along I-5 corridor and have my tires blow out because I've been using a tire treatment. I don't recommend them. Now, what the tire manufacturers do recommend doing is taking and scrubbing your tires and cleaning them 4 times a year, because tires are made from rubber. Rubber naturally oxidizes. So unless you're cleaning those tires 4 times a year, at least twice a year, if not 4 times a year, they oxidize. It looks like they're starting to crack, only they're not. It's just that the oxidation needs to be removed. So just clean them. Now the problem that comes in, if you start using a tire treatment on your tires and your tire blows out, you're going, oh hey, it's no big deal, they're under warranty, I'll just take them back in and get them exchanged. Well, the very first thing the tire center is going to do is go out and check your tires. If your tire has a treatment on it, you just voided your warranty, because the warranties are only good against manufacturing defects. I guarantee on my cleaning heads, I warranty these for 3 years, although we get generally 9 or 10 years worth of wear out of them. This is how green I am. So far, with the mops that I have out there being used, I've kept over 250,000 mops out of the landfill. That's how much I believe in taking care of our earth. It's huge. One person can make a difference. So, but it's like the warranty on my cleaning head. I guarantee these against manufacturing defects. If I goofed up making this, I replace it. If your dog or cat chewed on it, no, you bought yourself another one. So, and that's the way the tires, that's the way anything is. So the tire manufacturing companies will not replace that tire for you. Now, the other thing with tires is you want to make sure that you replace your tires every 5 to 6 years. 6 years is usually stretching it. But on your tires, to find out how old they are, on the registration number, the very end, the last 4 digits on the end of a registration number will be the week that it was manufactured, along with the year that it was manufactured. So when you go to buy tires, you tell the tire company that you want tires sent directly from the factory. And I can guarantee you the first thing they're going to say is, hey, don't worry about it, these have been sitting in a very dark warehouse. It doesn't matter. Those tires can sit in a dark cave, and within 5 years' time, you put them on a car, they're going to blow out because that tire has just simply worn out. It doesn't matter where they stored or anything. So check your tires when you buy them. Make sure that the dates are fairly current so that you get as close to 5 years worth of use out of them as you can. And even if your tires only have like 20,000 miles on them, get them replaced. Let's be safe out there, okay? Now let's talk about awnings on the outside. And again, this is applying for RVs and motorhomes. Your awnings can be a little bit tricky. You're parked out in an RV park someplace, you get tree sap coming down on those, you get dust and dirt, birds fly across, and yeah, you get some of those droppings added on. My number 1 rule of cleaning is give your product time to work. Now, the first thing that you need to do with an awning is take a brush, even just a broom, and sweep it off, or a garage push broom, but bring the dirt and the grit off of the top of the awning before you roll it up. Because even though awnings are rolled up really tightly, when you're traveling down the highway, it can still kind of shift a little bit, and that shifting can cause the fabric to wear down. They're expensive. So brush that off before you roll them up. Now the trick with that, when you're cleaning, before you start washing your RV, brush off your awnings, fill a bucket of water up with a little bit of your baby shampoo. I'd add a little bit of the Cleanies in with that and your vinegar, and take that bucket of water, and yeah, you have to get on the ladder for this, but take that bucket of water and dump it up on top of the awning, and then take your lamb's wool pad and spread that out all over that awning. Now roll your awning up. My number one rule of cleaning: give your product time to work, right? You roll the awning up. That allows the cleaner about 30 minutes to soften and dissolve the dust and the dirt up there, and then you can go up there and just use on the top of your awning. You can just grab a towel with that, go right across your awning and clean it. And with the towel on it, you can come right up underneath your awning as well and clean those areas, rinse them, and then let them air dry. Now, some folks, like if you live up in Oregon, Washington, if you're down south where you have a lot of humidity, you can get some mold and mildew on your awnings. If that happens before you throw your bucket of water up on that awning to clean it, always test a little bit first. But peroxide is a really good, peroxide will kill mold and mildew. So, but it can also take the color out of something too. So test a little spot to make sure that your awning is color fast, but add some peroxide to that bucket of water, toss it up, let it set. Now the other trick to getting rid of mold and mildew is to open up your awnings when it's warm outside. It's wintertime right now when we're filming, but next summer when it's hot outside, open up your awning, and the heat from the sun will also help kill that mold and the mildew. And it does a pretty good follow-up job with it. If you don't have any peroxide, vinegar also will help kill mold and mildew. Now the thing is, don't think you're going to outsmart me, okay? And combine the vinegar and the peroxide together. And oh hey, if one works really well, maybe putting them together is going to work even better. Don't, okay? Because those two products undo each other. They counteract each other. And so basically it returns both of them back to water, and neither one of them is going to do any good. So if you want to use both of them, use them separately. But they both will kill the mold and the mildew. Now, other issues that you get on motorcycles, cars, vehicles, semi-trucks, motorhomes, the whole 9 yards, are bugs on your windshields. They can be kind of a sticky issue, can't they? Yeah, especially in June. By the way, in June, you want to stay out of eastern Oregon. A couple of you out there are laughing about that when you've run into the flying grasshoppers out there. And stay out of the southern states because of the love bugs. They get stuck everywhere down there, and it's a mess. Now, I carry 2 pads that are made from microfiber, and those 2 pads will attach right onto the pad holder that the lamb's wool attaches onto. This one is a pad that scratches. So you dampen this down with water only, go over your windshield a couple times, it'll attach onto the same handle. And the neat thing about my products, they will attach either to my handle, of course, or to your handle. They're standard thread, so you don't have to buy another handle unless you happen to want the world's best. Which, you know, what else am I going to say? My handles are great. But dampen this down, go over your windshield a couple of times, then put the other pad on and dry your windshield, and you're done. Now, the neat thing about the microfiber is it also does a super job for your windows at home. It will clean the windows. And inside a motorhome, it's real difficult because those windows are rather large and they reach over a large instrument panel area. It's hard to clean into the corners around those. So this one with the swivel will swivel into those corner areas and get those clean. Now, I'd like to warn you a little bit, and I forgot to talk about this on the inside cleaning when we were talking about floor care, but that's a warning about microfiber. Microfiber is made with 85% polyester. Polyester is plastic. Plastic scratches. Microfiber will eventually, if used frequently enough, eventually it will take the paint, the clear coat, the gel coat off the side of any vehicle. It will take the finish off of a floor. It will take the finish off of wood furniture. It'll take the finish off your cabinets. If I stood back here and rubbed it on the walls for a little bit, it would take the paint off the wall as well. Microfiber has a lot of really good uses for cleaning glass, a microfiber towel for taking spills out of the carpeting. Oh my gosh, is that stuff absorptive? It really absorbs a lot of liquids. So there's a lot of good uses for microfiber, but just the rule of thumb with it, if the surface is sealed, finished, or painted, microfiber does not belong on it. Okay, so keep it off of those surfaces, but boy does it do a great job of getting bugs off your windshield. It's awesome. Now, on the windshield, you also have windshield wiper blades. And okay, so it starts raining a little bit, which it never rains up in Oregon. We need a lot more of that, by the way. We're 24 inches short of rainfall last year. But you start running your windshield wiper blades and they start smearing and you're going, oh my gosh, I've got to replace my windshield wiper blades. Not necessarily, because the rubber on a windshield wiper blade, rubber naturally attracts fumes. So you're driving down the highway, you're following all these cars, these semi-trucks, heaven only knows what else that you're following on the highway, and all of that is getting stuck onto the rubber on your windshield wiper blades. Oftentimes, all they need is just a good cleaning. So take an old grody cloth, dampen it down in some sudsy water, wipe those blades down really good until they come clean. Chances are you're not going to have to replace them. Save yourself some money. Now, if you're in a motor home and you're traveling and it's warm outside, you do want to cover your windshield wiper blades with a cover. Some people use pipe insulation to cover them. You can buy windshield wiper blade covers, you know, a lot of at the rallies or online they can be purchased. A lot of the RV stores will also carry them. But what happens with rubber when you're parked in the hot sun is that rubber is right up against your glass, and the sun will heat up the glass. So maybe it's 80 degrees outside, but that heat coming off that glass is 110. And so that hardens and starts cracking your windshield wiper blades. So on your motorhome, keep them covered up, and that's going to help. And that's why it's important to clean them fairly frequently, because it's going to help reduce that it's going to help prevent them from oxidizing and also help keep them from drying and cracking so much. Now, on your windshields, after you get the bugs off, I want you to grab a little bit. My Binya is totally concentrated. You break this down. This one bottle makes 10 gallons of cleaner, by the way, and it's totally streak-free. It will not streak your windows. And so with that, dilute it down. After you clean your windows, dilute it down. Spray your windows with my Binya, and then clean them down really good to remove any more road film or smears or anything like that that's on your windshield. Now you can take a little bit of my Advantage. It's made with polymers. There's no petroleum distillates in it, so it's not going to damage the gaskets on the side of your windows. Take the Advantage, spray it on a baby diaper cloth. I carry these, they're awesome. Spray it on a baby diaper cloth, wipe it on your windshields. Just do a section at a time. You can do this for a motorcycle, a car, a vehicle, any kind of a vehicle. On boats, it's wonderful on the boats because it helps keep the water when you're out on the lake, helps keep the water from sheeting up and hanging on your windshield so bad. But wipe it on your windshields. The polymers in Advantage make a surface slick. And that slick surface will help the water, the rain, just bead, and it'll actually just lift up when you're driving, and it will actually improve your visibility a lot, which becomes quite important if you hit fog or, you know, heavy rain, or, you know, at night, you know, if you have a little bit of night vision, it will help clear up that your vision for you quite a bit. Okay. Now, the one thing that you really need to do is take proper care of the exterior paint, whether it's on your motorcycle, your boat, your airplane, your RV, your car, whatever. You need to take really good care of it. And there's several products out there called waxes, sealants, protectants. What's the difference? Who can you trust with what product? And how do you know that your product is not going to damage the surface paint? Well, the sealant, a sealant, is something that will remove oxidation, scratches, swirl marks, and things like that. That's what my Advantage is. Bottles in the store will say for heavy oxidation remover, heavy duty cleaner. That's considered a sealant, and that's what Renews It is. A wax is always made with carnauba. Now, I'll have people all the time come down and say, Mary, or call me and say, Mary, I need to buy a bottle of your wax. I know they're talking about Advantage. Advantage is not a wax because it does not contain petroleum distillates, okay? A wax does not contain carnauba. It's not petroleum. It doesn't contain petroleum distillates either, but it doesn't contain carnauba wax. Wax is what contains carnauba wax. The reason that I don't use carnauba wax is because it will actually penetrate a clear coat, a gel coat. It gets down to fiberglass and seals fiberglass. Now, it's safe to use on a metal surface, but fiberglass is very porous. So if you go in and seal it, that porous surface is going to start turning yellow. And you don't want that happening. You don't want a white car or a white, motor home or a white boat turning yellow on you. So you shouldn't be using carnauba wax on it. My Advantage is what they call a protectant. It contains polymers in it. And polymers, the neat part about it, make a surface slick. So carnauba wax penetrates. So when you rub a cloth across a vehicle that's been treated with carnauba wax, it just kind of drags. So if you take Advantage and treat Advantage, put Advantage on the side of a vehicle, your hand will just slide right across it, and so will a cloth. Now, the great part about that is dirt doesn't stick, bugs don't stick to your windshields, dirt doesn't stick to the sides, the bugs will wipe right off of the front, and it makes cleaning your vehicle a whole lot easier. Now, the polymers do give you UV ray protection, so it will protect you against oxidation and damage by the sun. And it also, I had Advantage formulated to where it does not contain petroleum distillates. And what distillates do, when we talked about that a little bit earlier, when the paint's changed from being a lead-based paint over to being like a chroma-based paint or a polyurethane-based paint, it meant that the paints were not as hard anymore. And petroleum distillates can damage the paint and cause it to oxidize. So I had it formulated without petroleum distillates. And the neat part about that is if you have decals on your car or on your motorhome, the distillates will get in. The distillates is what you find in WD-40 that will dissolve stickers on glass and things like that. Well, the distillates will dissolve the adhesive on the back of your decals and striping. Or if you have a company vehicle that has decals on it, it'll dissolve that adhesive and cause it to pull away from the surface. So Advantage does not have that on there. Now, a little bit of word of warning. If you run across a product and the company says, well, we don't tell you what's in our product, it's proprietary information, the first thing you want to do is put your wallet back in your pocket and get out of Dodge. You have a right. It's expensive to have to repaint a car, repaint anything, whether it's a car, an RV, a motorhome, a motorcycle. It's expensive to repaint them. You have a right to know what is being put on your vehicle. And the reason that I'm telling you that is because a lot of these people do not want to tell you that their product contains silicone. Okay? What happens with silicone is, okay, say like if you get your vehicle scratched and it needs to be repainted, silicone does not come completely off of a vehicle of any kind. You can't get 100% of it off. Paint doesn't stick to it. How many of you have ever painted your home and tried to paint over the caulking around your windows on the outside? The paint didn't stick, right? Paint won't stick to silicone. If you can't get it completely off of a vehicle, that means that paint is not going to stick. 3 or 4 months later, it's going to start bubbling and peeling. And that's why these companies don't want to tell you what's in their product. So be very careful with that. If you don't know what's in a product, go look for something else. Okay, so how often do you wax? Well, if your car, your vehicle is outdoors full-time, you need to be applying that 2 to 3 times a year at least. And I always advise people when they start using My Advantage to apply it the first year, at least 2 to 3 times the first year. After that, you'll start building up these protective coatings, and then after that, maybe once every 8 or 9 months is all that you're going to need to use it, because it's going to stay nice and protected for you. So if you're using something other than My Advantage, probably 2 to 3 times a year if your vehicle is parked outdoors. If you're parked indoors 6 months out of the year, probably once to twice a year is all that you're going to need. Definitely treat it before or after you come back from vacation, to keep it looking nice and good. But you'll know when it's time to replace and to redo your wax or your protected. And that's because of the fact that the dirt's going to start sticking. It's going to be harder to get bugs off the windshield and bugs off the front and things like that. And also, by the way, with Advantage having polymers in it, spray this on a cloth, wipe it on your rear view mirrors. It's really difficult to get the bugs off of the rear view mirrors, so spray a little Advantage on there. Now, one last thing that I want to tell you, if you have an RV or a motorhome, I have a little book out called Whistle While You Work, and it was really funny. I had a gentleman, the name of my booklet came from a gentleman many years ago, called me and he said, "Mary, I need to buy a set of your cleaning tools for my coach." And I said, "Great." But as we were talking, he was kind of laughing and giggling. And I said, "Well, what's so funny?" And he said, "Well, nobody else will ever admit this, but he said, when you have a motorhome or an RV, everybody always sets up in the park, and then we all start walking around the park to find out what everybody else is using." And he said, "I walked past this one spot and this guy was whistling." And he said, "I looked over and he was using these products that I had not seen before." And he said, "I walked over," and he said, "I already had a garage full of stuff that either broke, didn't work, I got disgusted with it." And he said, "So I walked over and asked the guy if I could help him clean his coach." He said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, when we got done, he looked at the guy and he said, 'Well, these tools are great.' He said, 'They're the best I've ever used, but it didn't explain why you were whistling.'" And the guy looked at him and he says, "'Cause it worked." And he said, "What do you mean it worked?" And he says, "Every time I whistle, I get help cleaning my coach." So learn to whistle, you'll get help cleaning your coach, you'll make a lot of friends that way. Pick up a copy of my my Whistle While You Work, and also pick up a copy of my Complete Idiot's Guide to Green Cleaning. Thank you for coming into the seminar. If you have any questions, you're welcome to either call me or stop over at my booth or email me from my website. I'm here to help.